Yousef Salaam, who was one of the Central Park Five, one of 5 teens who were arrested for allegedly raping a woman in New York City's Central Park. Donald Trump then spent $85,000 on full-page ads in New York's 4 daily newspapers saying these teens, who were ultimately found innocent of the crime, that they should face the death penalty for their crimes. On the phone right now is Mr. Yousef Salaam. Mr. Salaam, how are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing well, sir. How's everything going?
Well, we'll let you know on Tuesday, actually on Wednesday morning, how everything is going. Thank you for joining me. You've got a very unique perspective on this presidential contest, a very unique perspective on one of these candidates. We need to engage people in this election. What do you say to other African Americans? What do you say to just voters in general? Your perspective as one who's got some real firsthand experience with the evils that is Donald Trump.
Well, in light of the recent mentions from Hillary Clinton, very, very powerful statement that she made these past few days, especially in light of the Central Park Five, but also the mention that she made where the KKK has endorsed Donald Trump. We need to be very, very vigilant, because when we look at the hidden messages in the conversations that are being had, and by hidden messages, I mean when you have a person like Donald Trump saying that he wants to bring back the police, he wants to be about law and order, he wants to institute practices across the nation which were instituted in New York City that were found to be unconstitutional and unjust. He feels like these practices were great and wants to bring these things out across the nation. We are supposed to be progressing towards a brighter, positive, and more productive future. But it seems like Donald Trump's candidacy and hopefully failed presidency is he's really trying to drag us back into the annals of time where there was Jim Crowism, there were people burning crosses on the lawns, hanging from trees. These types of things like that is what this man represents. And I think that we should all be very, very scared and leery, because to have a loose cannon in the office means that the rest of the world will, so to speak, gangster up as well. And we will be the ones caught in the mix and in the middle of it all, fearing for our lives. We need to make sure that this thing does not happen. The worst of our fears can be imagined with a president like Donald Trump coming into office, if that happens. And so we need to do anything and everything in our power to make sure that this man does not ascend to the highest office of the land.
Speaking with Mr. Yousef Salaam, this was no dog whistle. Donald Trump says he really wants to double down on stop and frisk. You have a person who is running for the highest office in the land wanting to double down on a philosophy that we know is racial profiling. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing. The reality is this. So we, as black and brown people in America, are the ones who've been always under the foot of the master. And I mean, I just want to really make it plain and clear, because if we look at what Donald Trump represents and stuff like that, like it's the same thing all over again. We don't want to go back to that state of slavery. I mean, right now in the Constitution of the United States, and it's unfortunate that we still have this document and this part of the document governing us, but they never changed this document, this part of the document. In the 13th Amendment, a great film that Ava DuVernay just put out, by the way. But in the 13th Amendment, we clearly see that they're talking about reverting you back to a state of slavery as the punishment of a crime. I mean, this is really ridiculous, And I mean, I challenge the government to really change that, because the only people that they're really speaking to, the only people that vibrate with that language are black and brown folks. So for Donald Trump to say, you know what, I want to institute practices that were found to be unconstitutional, I mean, what is he actually saying to us as a people? He's saying that making America great again means that making America white. That means that annihilating all of the black and brown folks. That means making sure that the black and brown folks continue to be in a subservient position and maybe be the servants of the people in power. I mean, this guy is braggadociously saying things like he assaults women, and he can do that because he's a celebrity. That type of affluenza is something that we don't need. That type of braggadociousness that he claims when he says that he doesn't pay taxes, and yet the rest of us, honest citizens in America, are out here paying taxes. we need to move far away from this kind of idea of a future like that with him.
Speaking with Yousef Salaam, a member of the Central Park Five, the millennial generation does not vote in the highest of numbers. I think we all can agree on that. African American millennials, so the demographic group within that group, are important to this election as they are important to every other election. But what they see and what they face in America, are they engaged, Yousef? Do you think that either of the campaigns have spoken to them either positively or negatively? And what can be done in these waning hours of the campaign to thoroughly engage black millennials to show them that, yes, Black Lives Matter. It also matters when you vote if you believe that Black Lives Matter. Your thoughts?
You know, the worst thing I'm seeing with black millennials is the idea that the whole election, the whole process is a rigged process and a rigged system. And I can understand where they're coming from because, you know, we see a lot of this stuff in movies, and I feel like when they show things like this to you in a movie format, really they've already practiced, they've already put that stuff into practice. But what I caution people to realize is this, that if you vote or if you don't vote, this country is ran under laws and systems that are put in practice by people who vote. So if we complain about, say, for instance, a judge being very discriminatory against black and brown people because they never litigate, prosecute, or any of that when it comes down to our people being shot down in the streets. We have a real power position when we can vote a person in power to make sure that justice happens. You know, it's difficult because, like, as you see out there, like the actual engagement between the people that are out here in the streets, the young people who are completely in this, they feel like you only live once, and they feel like, you know what, they're not going to be able to live past the age of 21 anyway, and if they do, then it's a blessing in disguise. You know, it's real hard to reach those kinds of folks. But what I want to remind people are the words of Maya Angelou. You know, Maya Angelou said, you know, here we are in a situation where we're angry and we're upset about the condition that we find ourselves in America. None of us woke up yesterday and said, you know what, statistically, I want to put myself in a position where I'm going to be dead or in jail before I reach the age of 21. But this is where we find ourselves. So Maya Angelou said something very, very powerful that I want to share. And what she said was that you should be angry, but you must not be bitter, because bitterness is like cancer and it eats upon the host. It doesn't do anything to the object of its displeasure. So she tells people that you should use that anger by you writing it, by painting it, you dance it, you march it, you vote it, you do everything about it. You talk it, never stop talking it. And I want to echo those last few words that she's saying about voting it. You know, we have, like I said, a real opportunity to effectuate change in the most positive way by making sure a person like Donald Trump, who represents everything negative that we can imagine. And when I tell you that, I mean, I want people to remember that as you look at Donald Trump when he comes in front of the crowds, look at the people in the crowds. Look at how enamored they are by this man. He's already stated that he can go on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and he would not lose any supporters. So I want you to look at the people in the crowd and understand that those words that he is saying are 100% true. He will not lose any supporters, but it's up to us, the people, to make sure that we don't support him.
Mr. Salaam, how are you not bitter? You are constantly reminded of what happened to you back in 1989. It is nonstop, I am sure. And then you see this man who spent this money to take out these full-page ads in New York's newspapers, even though you are innocent and were compensated for the time that you spent in confinement. Donald Trump still seems to think that an innocent person needs to be in confinement. How are you just not entirely bitter at the system, because you saw the criminal justice system working in the worst possible way? You experienced the failures personally. How are you not bitter? Or quite honestly, are you bitter?
Well, I'm angry and I'm upset, but I'm not bitter. I've looked at my situation and I've understood that the real way to make positive change is to make sure that there's never another Central Park jogger case, that people do not get railroaded into the system in the way that we got railroaded into the system. And so what I've chosen to do is to use my voice to make sure that I can go into the universities, into the high schools, into the elementary schools and the junior high schools, so that I could talk to the people who are going to be the future doctors, lawyers, the future presidents, the future forensic scientists, and even if they're going to be just something as we call simple, a regular common citizen. That regular common citizen may one day get a letter in the mail, and that letter may say that we have called you to be on a jury. And so it's your duty to go to the jury, right? And what I say is that when you hear about stories like the Central Park 5 or the Central Park jogger case, when you hear about stories like what happened to Sean Bell, what happened to Ramarley Graham, what happened to Mike Brown, what happened to Trayvon Martin, all of these atrocities that have gone on around the country, we have a direct responsibility to make sure that these things get changed. And how do they get changed? They get changed because I know that the future generations of these the United States of America, the citizens of this country, those people want to have a fair chance. Those people, they look to see a real, true melting pot of the kaleidoscopic human family. Those people want a better way. You know what I'm saying? Those people are not their parents. And unfortunately, some of them made their fortunes just like Donald Trump. He said he got a small loan from his dad. That small loan happened to be $14 million. You know, which one of us would want to be in that position? Many of us would want to be in that position. But most people are not. And so the most people who are not look at the future of us as a people building this country up together and working side by side and hand in hand to make sure that there's positive change and outcome that happens. So, I've used my voice to make sure that I can help push that change along, to make sure that when people see me, they see a person who, yes, was ran over by the spike wheels of justice, but was able to heal from that process and stand even stronger in the face of adversity and push forward to make sure that never again will there be another Central Park 5.
Mr. Yousef Salaam, thank you so much. Your words have echoed very, very loud and very clear. We appreciate you, and let's all hope for the best outcome on Tuesday's Election Day.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you as well.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.
That was powerful and inspiring. Here's someone who should be very upset at the system. Someone who should have every right, because he has witnessed the failures of the justice system. He has also experienced firsthand the vitriol from Donald Trump. Even though this man that we just spoke to was exonerated of his crimes, DNA evidence cleared him, and the state of New York provided he and the 4 other gentlemen $41 million as a settlement. Donald Trump still thinks that he should be in jail. Can you imagine having a president of the United States that thinks that innocent black men, innocent completely, they've just been accused, but just the accusation alone should give you the death penalty? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how many more innocent people will be executed? Innocent people get executed as it is, but a president that supports that. And so when you look at commonsensical things like this, well, the choice should be very, very clear. But for some reason, these polls are very, very close. All it takes is Trump to win